Hello, welcome to New Game Plus. I'm Tim. I'm not joined by Donald.
Okay, I can catch that Pokemon over there.
Donald has been gripped by Pokemon Go fever, and he's currently trying to catch a
And my battery's dead. Hi.
That has been the trouble recently, just the struggle of going to the Pokemon Center and running out of battery.
Yeah, like even just if you just keep it just on a still screen without moving, you still just can actually see that battery drain down bit by bit. But Pokemon Go fever has very much gripped the game community, hasn't it, Tim?
Yes, and Australia getting it first out of all places to get it first. The rest of the world was very angry at us.
Oh, the added irony that it's a Nintendo thing as well, especially since there's another Nintendo game that recently came out, Rhythm Heaven for the 3DS. America got it at E3, we have to wait until October.
Yes, of course. But of course, there's other problems so far. It's been a bit of a rocky launch with the servers.
Yeah.
You catch your first Pokemon and then you're waiting for servers. So hopefully by the time this airs, well, obviously we're filming just after it's been released. Hopefully it'll settle down a bit.
And hopefully some of the little quibbles can be fixed as well. So it's like the GPS isn't particularly accurate. I can stay in one location and it'll walk me like 500 meters around.
But that's usually phone stuff as well.
Yeah.
Like you try and find yourself on Google Maps and sometimes it will be too far off than
I think I'll have a harder time since I just dropped my phone down there.
I'm sure it's fine. It's
I fear to look up at the crack that's inevitably down there.
It's not an iPhone, so it won't break, or maybe it is an iPhone.
It is an iPhone.
It is an iPhone, so maybe it will break.
Let's just comfort ourselves with what's coming up in New Game Plus this week.
Yes, we have a look at the CSGO gambling scene and the shady individuals involved in there.
We look at Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE, the latest collaboration between Atlas and the people what make Fire Emblem.
And we take a look at gaming movies with you.
But first, on to our first review.
You are the ocean's
Well, Charlotte, together we ride for a very convoluted journey with Fire Emblem Fates, both Birthright and Conquest for the Nintendo 3DS.
Yeah, so the game comes in two versions. You play as an avatar character whose default name is Corrin, and basically Corrin was born in the kingdom of Hushido and got kidnapped by Nor when they were a small child. And so the game has you choose which one you want to fight for, either your birth kingdom or your the one you grew up in, and that's where the two different versions of the game come into play.
There's an interesting nature versus nurture element here when it comes to Fire Emblem Fates, and both of them intersect into two different games. So you have Birthright and you have Conquest, like you explained before. And then there's also another version called Revelation, which is more on a little bit later, but now we'll be focusing more on the first two primary games, where you're in the kingdom of Hoshido or the kingdom of Nor, depending on which outlook you have or which characters you want to identify or fight with. So when it all comes down to it, your standard Fire Emblem fare, you go around strategy RPG environments, going around in grid-based structures, fighting enemies, leveling up, and also doing all sorts of crazy waifu support crap down the line. That's essentially what Fire Emblem Fates does, but I honestly think it does it much better than Awakening does.
Yeah, I enjoyed this game a lot more than Awakening. I've played all the English Fire Emblem games, and this is probably, I enjoyed it far more than Awakening. Of the two, I would definitely say, if you're looking to get into this game, play Birthright first before Conquest. Birthright is much easier, and it leads into the story of Conquest better as well.
Yeah, and with Conquest as well, there are certain few things that come into context that you'll pick up from Birthright, thinking, okay, yeah, this is exactly what they meant. Some of the differences being that Conquest is a lot more harder with the metagame when it all comes to all different kind of leveling up, and also the amount of gold you receive. I honestly didn't find any problem with that, but the structure of each missions were a lot more simple, like, go from point A to point B, kill this certain general, rout all enemies, that kind of deal, whereas Birthright was a little bit...
Yeah, Conquest is more a traditional Fire Emblem game that old players of the series will be used to. Birthright was a bit easier, it was definitely more Awakening-like, and it is definitely the one to start with.
Yeah, so when it all comes down to it, Fire Emblem Fates is a neat, fantastic package, definitely worth recommending, and down the line, stay tuned because we'll be looking at Revelations in a few weeks' time, so stay tuned and fight on.
Alright, see you guys.
Hello and welcome to Planeswalker Plus. I am your host, Alice Clark. Today we are in my dining room playing with the lovely new Eternal Masters set from Magic the Gathering. It's a set primarily designed for drafting, but it has some really awesome reprints of great cards used in Legacy and Pauper. And really, that's what you would play with it. That and Commander, my favorite, and the one that the rest of the crew forced me to play at gunpoint. Let's do it now.
Okay, so I have drafted a red-green aggressive deck. Now there's two major components that I'm going to be really relying on to get to the win. I've got an elf synergy. I've got cards like Liss Alana Huntmaster, who makes more elf tokens when I cast elf spells. And then, what goes better than with an elf than a goblin? I've got lots of goblins, and they're hopefully going to make more goblins, and they're going to throw these goblins at my opponent in the hope that they die.
So, like I think 4 other people, I drafted green. I also drafted white, which creates, I guess, more of a enchantment deck rather than an elf deck that everyone else was going for. Basically, I just want to buff my creatures. I have a limited amount of them, but I just want to make them stronger than everyone else and hopefully make them unkillable, basically.
If you're looking for a tap of originality, you're not gonna find it in cinema. Every other movie seems to be an adaptation of a comic book or a Disney ride, or in the case of Mac and Me, it's the adaptation of the experience of eating at McDonald's, because every time I eat there, I do feel like this sad, misshapen lump of flesh. So it's no surprise that Hollywood is trying to make a quick buck or two out of video game movies. And this year, they are making a particular push. Already this year, we've seen Warcraft, whose subtitle at the beginning is less a promise of more movies and more a threat of more movies. And we've also seen Angry Birds the movie, in which literal pigs arrive on an island by boat, steal its resources and destroy the local way of life. It is so anti-immigration, I'm surprised that the DVD doesn't come with the racist bumper sticker. And at the end of the year, we're going to get an Assassin's Creed movie starring Michael Fassbender. Personally, I'd be more interested if he reprised a previous role for this one. No, I'm not talking about Magneto, I'm talking about his role as sex addict Brandon Sullivan in 2011's Shame. It explained why he has to wear those robes and climb up all those towers. Some discretion is required when you're just jacking it almighty. Hollywood is also threatening to make movies out of Arkanoid and Fruit Ninja, and even Chinese cinema is getting in on the action by releasing a trilogy of sci-fi thrillers based on Tetris. Now, this may sound strange, but it's not the first time that a sci-fi thriller has starred a featureless block. The last time that happened, we got the Matrix trilogy. You may ask, how can they make a movie out of that? But a whole lot of Hollywood movies can be explained with a one-sentence game mechanic. Keep this bus above 50 miles per hour. Punch everyone in Europe. And watch as Michael Bay takes a big steaming dump on your childhood. But it's hard to be optimistic about video game movies when they all turn out to be bad or borderline lethal. On Rotten Tomatoes, no Hollywood video game adaptation has a higher score than of 50%. The highest one is at 42%, and it's the Angry Birds movie, which explains so much about this world. So why do these bad movies keep on being made? It's because they make money. The Resident Evil franchise alone has made over $900 million. So I'm surprised that the recent announcement for the Resident Evil 7 video game isn't just a life-size cardboard cutout of Mila Jovovich. But even if these movies don't make money at the box office, there are still those sweet, sweet tax write-offs, which is why Uwe Boll just kept on cranking out bad video game movies. Out of the 6 that made it to cinema, they all have an average Rotten Tomatoes score of just 5.5%, which pretty much explains the amount of effort that he put into those movies. So Uwe Boll, do you promise to put more effort into your movies next time? I've spent a lot of time talking about bad movies, but what will it take to make a good video game movie? I think it comes down to 3 things. It has to faithfully recreate the characters and the world. It has to mimic the experience of playing the game itself. And most vitally, it cannot be a cringeworthy pile of crap. Unfortunately, a lot of movies falter even at this level. Indeed, the amount of movies that could be classed as good video game movies is staggeringly low. There's the Ace Attorney movie, which is a fantastic adaptation of its source material. It faithfully recreates it right down to the individual strands of Phoenix Wright's hair. Other than that, the other example I can think of isn't even a video game, it's Edge of Tomorrow. But it fits all the criteria. It is a fun, solid sci-fi movie. The constant loop of death and respawning is basically my experience with first-person shooters. And Tom Cruise might as well be a video game character. As an operating Thetan level 9 Scientologist, all he has to do is beat the Xenu final boss and he's clocked Scientology once and for all. He'll finally be free! But that movie had a lot of money put into it, and we're only just starting to see that now with video game movies. It'll take a few years and a lot of money and commitment from filmmakers before we start to see video game movies that are as good as something like The Avengers. And until then, we'll have to put up with our bumper stickers and our Mila Jovovich cardboard cutouts. Although, for some fans' sake, I hope that cardboard cutout is fluid repellent. Ugh. And that is everything that has happened in the world, ever.
Now, Shaney, one thing that I've been asked about in the last probably 6 to 12 months, probably even longer, is about the impact of skins and skins betting on video games. And it's something that I've warned people about for a long, long time. Recently, ABC have done a couple of pieces which I don't think have gotten to the core of the issue.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, we probably have the biggest scandal so far regarding skins betting.
And it comes down to a company called Csgo Lotto. Basically, there's these 2 YouTubers that have been, I guess, pumping out content for this website. One called Pro Syndicate and one called Team Martin. Now, these 2 guys have been making a lot of content and have got about 10 million, I think, subscribers together.
Something huge
Something
enough,
like
yeah.
that. So these 2 guys make heaps of content, makes heaps of money on this gambling website because, you know, that's how they get their viewers. Lo and behold, they're actually the president and the vice president.
So basically what they've been doing is saying, hey, here's how to make quick money on CSGO skins. Oh, look at all the money I made betting. But they own the marketplace that does all the betting. It's the same as like Tom Waterhouse coming out and saying, oh man, I love horse racing. I made lots of money on horse racing. And then him running the book. It's exactly the same thing as that. So this is the problem with, oh, here we go.
I know, but it's that, but then it's also, if you go, okay, but I also rigged the race.
Yes, and
Because
that's a Waterhouse special.
Well, that's the Waterhouse.
I'm going to get sued for
you
that.
know, let's not go there.
Yeah.
Because the problem with this website itself, I believe it had gambling also on esports, but it also had like instantaneous gambling.
Yes.
So it basically had a 50-50 coin toss where you like throw a coin and do you win or do you not?
Yeah.
So that's where you go, okay, sure, if you're doing that on purpose and you're doing that like without any kind of influence at all, sure. But if you're president and vice president of the actual website itself, you've got entrance to the back end.
So for Australia, for example, if you work in a casino, like doing whatever, you cannot set foot in that, you cannot gamble in that casino. You generally cannot gamble in that state, let alone that casino. So most people, and this is the thing, like a lot of the enforcement that comes through in Australia obviously doesn't include worldwide.
Yeah.
And this is the problem that we're facing coming into kind of 2-pronged. Number one, you know, ethics in journalism, blah, blah, blah. But YouTubers seem to be like free from that scrutiny. There seems to be way less put into like sponsored videos by YouTubers. And this is like, so like grossly that it really kind of beggars belief that they thought they were going to get away with this on a long term.
But the other main issue also is that coming from an online gambling website, that's not based on currency, let's just say, which is a legal grey spot, they've got underage gamblers
Yes.
too. So these people have been basically having fans with kids of like 13 and under
Yes.
gambling on their own website that with their like 13-year-olds. It just makes no sense.
And this is the problem. Esports is starting to face a lot of those issues that we used to see with a lot of old-fashioned ones. But it's also bringing its own new problems. We've had match fixing allegations and plenty of other stuff. We had the Adderall drug scandal for LOL.
Yep.
And to be fair, a lot of the publishers are coming out and speaking out against this. But this is where Valve needs to put an end to this straight away. They need to do something to ensure that these sites can't get away with this kind of content. But what?
There was a volunteer, I believe, management site on their website, on Valve actually, their moderators, sorry. They had volunteer moderators actually block the website for malicious content. Then it was unbanned by a paid moderator. This was because it was not malicious in the sense of that it was spam or otherwise had spyware or something like that. But it's malicious and it just
relax.
like, because of the implications that these people have been making ads for their website without actually having any kind of like back end or like
There's no oversight.
No
It's
oversight.
obviously illegal. It's basically insider trading.
Yep.
They are lying to their audience, and not only are they lying to their audience, they're cheating their audience out of money. You did that in a casino, you end up like Joe Pesci beat up with a baseball bat in the back of like the Nevada desert, right? So the fact that these people have been able to avoid repercussions of that nature shows that Valve aren't taking this as seriously as they should. No. Hopefully the pressure piles on soon enough and something is done about it, but just be very careful, guys, with all your skins betting, with all that kind of stuff. We're seeing a huge proliferation of it, and I don't like where it's headed.
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow?
Look, Mr. Bubbles. It's an angel.
Symmetry, dear Steinman. It's time we did something about symmetry.
Rapture is a body, Delta. I am the voice. And Big Sister is the hand. When Rapture speaks of you, it says only this. Your day is done.
The seed of the prophet.
Bring us the gold and wipe away the debt.
He will abandon you, my sweet Elizabeth. Once he has what he needs, he will leave you alone.
We swim in different oceans but land on the same shore. It always starts with a lighthouse.
Some of the fondest memories I have in gaming are from the Bioshock series.
I remember when that game launched for the Xbox 360. It was a marquee title for that console in the early days. It looked spectacular, and even the art style to this day holds up.
Yes, and certainly if you've gone back and played the game because it was like $1 on a Steam sale, if you have 1 and 2, you get it free on the PC.
Yeah, you get the remastered, the upgraded versions just patched in if you own 1, 2, or Minerva's Den for the PC. Although weirdly, Bioshock Infinite, I keep on calling it Bioshock 3. Bioshock Infinite is not being touched for the PC version because that has apparently still holds up to this day.
Yeah, when you look back at it, the style it uses certainly holds up, and I think when you look back at 1 and 2, it has aged a little bit, so it's nice to get the updated version. The good thing though is you don't have to deal with Games for Windows Live on the PC, which when the game launched was a bit iffy.
No, but I wonder how much of Bioshock 1's mechanics would kind of feel rusty today. Like, do you remember the pipe puzzle solving?
Yes, I do. It is not one of the best parts of the game.
Not to mention like the infinite respawning that you could do just to sort of cheat your way through the big daddies. I'm not sure if that persisted through to Bioshock 2. And this would be the perfect opportunity for I'm guessing many, if you're like me, who was looking forward to Bioshock 2, played through the first hour, and then got quickly distracted by something else. This would be a good opportunity to relive those games once again.
Or if you haven't played the first, definitely worth trying out.
Or Infinite, which if you disregard any sort of thoughts, if you just go along for the ride, it is still fantastic.
In what seems to be the year 2016 of matches made in heaven, we're going to be focusing entirely on Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE, which is an amalgamation of Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem. And it is quite swell, isn't it, Charlotte?
It's fantastic. It's shaping up to be my game of the year so far, just being up bravely second.
Nice.
And so it follows the character Itsuki and his mates Toma and Tsubasa as they sort of try to become idols so they can fight these things called mirages, which have been sort of just appearing all around Japan and wreaking all kinds of havoc.
Yeah, so there's this huge otherworldly threat, and the best way to dispatch them is through the power of song and dance, which is what everybody is training to do, to become actors, actresses, singers, idols, the whole shebang.
Yeah, because people who are good at that kind of thing are high-end performer, which is what these mirages try to get, and the people who are high-end performer are really good at fighting them.
Yeah, so giving a bit of a rundown, the way the combat system is handled is very similar to that of the Shin Megami Tensei series, where you got to exploit enemies' elemental weaknesses, and also the weapons triangle from the Fire Emblem series of, swords, lances, and axes are actually incorporated within these weaknesses. So not only do you have to worry about elemental attacks, but the weapons, the melee attacks in which you hurt people with.
Yeah, and if you manage to hit an opponent that has this weakness, then your other allies may follow up with an attack called and that'll start a session. And so you can basically just have a whole bunch of people just smacking your enemy all in one shot if you keep lining up these sessions, and it's really, really nice.
It's very cohesive as well. Everyone seems to complement each other in terms of using particular weapons like lances. So, for example, if you have yourself an elemental attack like Zeo, for example, lightning attack. If you have someone who has an attack that's very similar to that of like a lightning elemental lance attack, then they follow up with that. So sessions work really well in making sure that you want to be attacking a lot more than your enemy does in that sense. No matter how fast you are, you want to make sure you be getting those extra hits in.
Yeah, and even so outside of the combat, this game is just really good in like pretty much any other way. Like what really gives it its flavor is just all the little things, little character quirks that they put in, all these little text messages you get. Just all of that has just been brilliantly done. I've just been like even just a couple of hours into the game, I could see that they put a lot of love into it. It was amazing.
And the world of Shibuya is also incredibly fleshed out as well. So everything from the text messages, everything from the environment to interacting with certain particular people and vending machines, as well as the game isn't afraid to take the mickey out of itself as well. It strikes that real archivist strip style of sense of humor. So it's got some fantastic sensibilities, great combat, great characters. Tokyo Mirage Sessions is a definite recommended from both myself and Charlotte.
Absolutely, yeah. There are so many times when I've seen the characters and just gone, oh my god, I know people who are like this, or oh my god, I know this is something that someone else would say.
Yeah, that's
it's just so well done. Seriously, guys, this is a really good game.
Yes, definitely.
Tim, I'm just going to assume that this game isn't for you. There is not enough Gwent in here, there's not enough horse riding. It's basically not The Witcher 3.
It's anything that's not The Witcher 3 does not make it into my books.
Or Hearthstone.
Or
Dota.
Yeah. All those.
There could be some... No, there is no link.
Bioshock was so earlier.
There's no link between this and any of your interests, so I won't try and pitch you this time. But I've personally played through the first couple of hours of this game, and how Persona it is appeals to me to no end. From the music to the style to the fact that the combat is less Shin Megami Tensei and much more Persona, much more accessible for someone like me. I just love it.
Does it stave you off until Persona 5?
Yeah, it actually does, yes. Otherwise, I was just going to be replaying Persona 4 and just listening to that soundtrack over and over. Oh, the soundtrack's so good for all these games. But we've also recently found out that Deep Silver, the company what distributes Saints Row, has got the European rights for Atlas. So we'll be getting Persona 5 in the European Australian region. Hopefully it won't end up being like the first Persona 4 fighting game, which took an actual year to get from America to Australia.
Well, Deep Silver does a lot of stuff in Australia, so it shouldn't be that long.
I'm hoping it's pretty much day and date. Hopefully that Valentine's Day 2017, I'll just forget all of this. I'll just be playing Persona 5.
They're not Nintendo, so it should be okay.
Although if it's like Nintendo and Pokemon Go, then we get it slightly before America. Yeah.
Yes. But, of course, speaking of Pokemon Go, it's great that everyone's getting out to
Yeah.
like the parks and the Darwin police station as well, if you've
Yeah,
seen that
that
going around, reminding people to certainly look up when they're crossing the road, and Gyarados reminds you as well.
Oh, of course. Like, I was walking in the city, like, the day that it launched. I was walking by, trying to find my Pokemon. So, like, walk into a group. They all had Pokemon go, hey, let's get time tap by all. We had to stare at each other, then we battled. It was kind of rough.
Hopefully there'll be lots of improvements to come with like battles and that sort
And
of
we'll
stuff.
have a review for it soon, too.
But that's it for this week, so visit our website, www.newgameplus.tv.
Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/NewGamePlusTV.
Follow Twitter and Instagram at New Game Plus TV.
And subscribe to us on YouTube and Twitch. We are New Game Plus TV. One word, no spaces.
Thank you, Donald.
Thank you, Tim.
We'll see you guys next week.
I'm going to go Pokemon Go now. Goodbye.